Thank you for attending Worldwide Slot Car Chat. Gang's all here. Host Greg Galb, Lloyd, Kelly, Petrucci, Paul, Martin, John, Leo, Steve, Michael, Alan, Duan is here. Awesome. And Chris and everybody. Let's chat. Anybody got any show and tell? All right, John, go for it.
Again, this is related to our project. If I can just
start on this, how's it been going?
Did you get my email with the pictures and everything?
Yes, I did. Yeah, absolutely. And oh wait, I just got somebody. Let me just open this up and then share screen. And again, this is sort of a continuation of last week's sort of subject here. One moment, color. Here we go. I'll share screen.
Just so everybody knows, these are the updates I'm getting. I'm not getting any updates between shows, so this is kind of fun for me too.
Oh, okay, cool. I think I got the right one here. Here, let me just share this here.
This is where he brings up hot Canadian girls.
So that is the scan at 600 DPI of the decals that Leo was so kind to send.
Zoom way in.
Nice.
Oh, zoom in. Okay, sure, no problem. And I just want to say that if anybody wants a copy of these, they scan pretty well.
Keep going.
Oh, zoom right in?
Zoom all the way in.
Okay, it's 600 DPI.
No, do all the zoom.
Oh, okay, right in. You want to see it pixelated?
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are the printed pixels. That's awesome.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's about as good as it gets. I mean, you literally captured the decal as it is.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. Well, you can thank my wife for that, for the scan. No, so we've got that. The other thing I want to show, if I can stop sharing, is I haven't had a chance to get into the workshop directly, and may not for a little while, but I have been playing around. So of course, one of the, procedures, yeah, that's a good word, is to sort of graft on the round fenders to the other fenders. So what I've done is the following. Of course, I think I mentioned that I got another Matchbox kit.
Yep.
Okay, which is actually still cello sealed. I haven't opened this up. But here's a question for you folks. I think this kit, sorry, I keep saying kit, is I think the same as this kit.
It
is, yeah. Okay, so you know what? Rather than ruin your car, Leo, I'm gonna use this kit for grafting. And it also will be easier because it's a part. Believe it or not, I think that will be easier. And let me show you why. So,
John, I don't want any of the stuff back, so no problem with trashing it or whatever, or doing a dummy run.
Sure. So that gives that. Oh, that's good. Unlike Dr. Frankenstein, I've got more than one chance. So I thought I'd practice, and I don't know if you guys like this, but this is the. I hope you can see this. The Strombecker RSK, which is fairly accurate, except it has the worst rear fender in the world of an RSK, because an RSK never had a rounded fender like that. So what I did was I took one of my castings, one of these Porsche castings, and you can see how the rear fender is flat, just like the RSK should be. So I did a Frankenstein. I sacrificed one of these and started grafting on the rear fenders. And this is practice for what our project is. And I'll be darned, folks, and this, of course, we've got some extraneous tissue here that we can remove in separate surgery. But I think that's kind of what we're kind of looking at. And then, of course, fill it in and sand it off. And I think that's kind of the step that I'll take going from this. And the question, of course, is where to make the cut. And I think the bigger the cut, the easier it'll be. But really, I mean, I don't think it will be as challenging as it might be. And of course, this rear wing that's the correct rear wing for the car, by the way.
Yeah.
So all we really need are the rounded fenders, because the rear lights, if I can use those as well, they're really quite lovely. I mean, it's a beautiful model. It's gorgeous. So I just thought I'd give everybody an update and let you know that we've been practicing. So
what about, John, what about if you cut it, put the Porsche back up again? What about if you cut it from where the door pillar line is?
Yeah.
across, and then cut down the middle of the roof from the back, from that cut down to the back. That way, you'll have, and you can just trim it to size then, can't you?
Well, let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. Because believe it or not, this Scalextric's car is narrower than the model in the roof.
Yeah.
So it might be best to keep the integrity of the model as much as possible by basically just replacing the fenders.
Yeah. But I was thinking that would give you more, if you can then just trim to the reach line of the windows.
Well, the other thing too is that they're clear windows here, which I believe the car has. I don't think it has nacaducts in the back.
Don't know. Greg would know that.
I mean, I took pictures of the model.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure that this body is absolutely correct, except for having square versus rounded fenders.
Yep.
So I just thought I'd give you a little update, even with everything that's going on here, of what we've been playing around with. So
take your time.
I can't wait to see.
But I thought I'd practice first.
You've got 2 shots.
Other
than doing one in resin, is there a reason we're not using the model kit body?
No. I'll be using the model kit body for sure. Yeah.
No, but I mean the model kit body for Greg's car.
Instead of giving me a resin one, give me the model kit.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you want the model kit, we'll give you the model kit. No problem. And then we can make as many resin copies as you like, whatever you choose.
I have no personal preference, but maybe Chris would.
You know what? Well, let's go nuts. I can give you 1 or 2 of each.
One blue and one yellow.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Yeah, you want a specific color.
I want the
Blue
Martini.
and yellow in the middle.
I don't want.
I know you want it as per the car that you like. So that's what we will do.
What does the model
kit? See this coming along, this is good to see this whole thing being built. I can see John's having a lot of fun grafting bits and pieces, but at some point we've got to think about how this looks at the end point and how we're going to send it around the world for testing. We're going to do a kind of, we should do a daisy chain, and that means that so it gets sent to somebody at a club somewhere, they do a video and test it, and then they are responsible for daisy chaining it to the next person. This car could go
I know what, and that's, Alan, I think that's a great idea for a resin cast body, because then if, heaven forbid the body gets damaged, no big deal, we make another one. But the original, I think Chris makes a really good point. The original should be with Greg.
Yeah.
Okay. And also, I want to do final QC. Once all the paint and the chassis and everything's done, I want to do that final QC. And when I deem it's appropriate to send around the world for people to race on other people's tracks with other people's fingers on other people's controllers, at such time, then I will begin that daisy chain.
Spoken like a true project manager.
Well, as I've said many times through my working life, bloody clients.
Who's building the chassis? I reckon Chris should build it.
Dennis is going to do the chassis.
Dennis is doing the chassis.
Oh, I've missed out on that one then.
And Chris, you're going to be finishing the body, right?
Yes. So it goes from you to Dennis and then to me.
Right.
I can't wait to see it. I really can't.
Well, and Alan, I think you've got a great idea. I was thinking of doing that with one of these 356s. I was, basically like having it travel to different tracks around the world with the caveat that it has to have a little sticker on it from each track or something along that.
Totally. I mean, I'd definitely be up for that. And you can count on me as one of your first stops if you want to do that. We should arrange something like that.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Can I ask?
To me, I'll get it onto at least 3 tracks in the London area.
All right. So I do have a question then. What color would you like? Is there a preference?
Blue and yellow.
I'm a performance guy. I don't care what color it is, John. I really don't.
Okay, so
you make it the color you want to see on your.
So resale red is fine then.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Alan, you can send it to me because I've got my track, then I've got Shepton, and I've got East Devon. So they can go around there as well.
Well, there you go. That's 6 tracks in the UK without even trying, right?
Oh, see, I would love to put that on my channel too. If you guys could videotape it, and we'll just, that would be awesome.
It should go on Lloyd's rally track too.
Oh, Lloyd, yeah. Lloyd, do you think it would fit on your rally track?
Sure, he's run 132nd, haven't you?
No, Lloyd's not here.
I'm
But
here.
his tracks are both 143rd.
Right.
Yeah, but haven't you thrown the ones
But-
that you around it? Or just too much?
That thing's tiny enough, it may go around though.
Yeah.
Oh, it's worth a try.
Or somebody's rally track.
I can run it around my rally track.
Oh yeah.
So,
I'll have
yeah.
to have some. If you give me some measurements of it, I'll see whether it'll
Oh.
fit.
Lloyd is here. Sorry, Lloyd. Didn't think you were there.
He's
I'm, not, I'm hiding.
Lloyd's Lloyd's looking like a broadcaster as well. It's tough to spot.
He's a different background. He's like a world map background or something behind him.
Meanwhile, I'm looking like a member of the Manson family here.
I always have a kitchen behind me or a door.
I just got purple wall.
The wrong purple.
Oh, tell me about it.
On the rally track, I can get a 143rd scale Mercedes 220 SE. So all the big Jaguar Mark 7, they go around there. So it's possible that the Porsche may fit, but it may just be too wide. I'm not sure.
Yeah, the other issue might be the guide, right?
That's
What was that?
The other issue may be the guide. I usually put a TSRF guide on the car.
Yeah, most guides seem to work on it, but I haven't been running the track for a little while. Not quite sure of its future at the moment, so we haven't been using it much. But most cars up to a certain size will go around, but with 132nd, it's more to do with the width than the length.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because the car's really not that wide, which is good.
That's right. It may be okay. If I knew what the width was, I could have a look.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
But I should make a commitment to actually get that maybe close to being shipped maybe next week. I hope. Give me something to do here while I'm convalescing with our cat.
There you go. Were you showing something off, Leo?
Stroking cat. Right. Another worldwide chat project, although this one's constrained to Scotland. So Portals mentioned cutting decals with a cricket machine for slot cars. So I had something on the go which needs white decals, and that's always difficult to do with water slide transfer paper. So Gordon, Portals 999, agreed to try cutting them and see how it went. So he did that, and I've applied the decals to the car, and here it is. So hopefully you can see that. Oh, I should hide the rear end because the rear end is not finished off yet. But you can see the white decaling, which is going to be difficult on a red background, obviously. So there we are. I see it back to front, but I guess you guys can see it the right way around.
Yeah.
And here we are. So there was an issue. This is printed on white, sort of cut from Cricket's own white vinyl. And you can feel that they are stickers rather than a water slide transfer, but it's very, very thin and it sticks on very well. It was easy to apply by having the shapes were on a transfer tape. So that allowed me to align the shapes and then press them against the bodywork to make the actual vinyl stick to the bodywork. So it was fairly easy to do. I was kind of a bit worried about that, to be honest. But where it did fail was on the bonnets. It should say "drive safely" in the gap, but the font, the text was too small for the lettering to come out sensibly. So we kind of abandoned that. What I'm going to do is just simply have a white stripe continuous across the bonnet. I'm not bothered with that particular text, a bit of artistic license, but the overall effect I thought was pretty impressive.
I think that looked, but you know what? And don't forget, Leo, the real car has stickers too. They're not.
But that's true. Yes, it'll be a vinyl wrap, won't it? Yes.
Yeah. And now all you need is a little Sid Watkins.
Yes. Or it's somebody else these days, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can't remember what his name was.
Can't remember his name, but Sid was the man.
But yes, so hopefully get this sorted out soon. Need to finish off the rear end, the windows and things, and put the headlights in. This is actually a cut and shut job as well. So it's actually an old Nimco C-Class Mercedes with a GT3 car front grafted on. So this is a bit of a cut and shut Frankenstein project also. So anyway, so Portals is not here to tell you the actual process he went through, but it was difficult to achieve the lettering. So that kind of fell by the way, I'm afraid. When you cut the vinyl, there's a process they call weeding. If you've looked at any of the cricket videos on YouTube, I recommend them for other reasons than the technicalities. But anyway, if you watch those, they talk about weeding the output, and that's to remove the sort of surround from the actual content that you actually want. And of course, doing tiny little lettering that size to fit in there is just, you know, very fiddly, and Gordon had a go at it, but eventually abandoned it because it wasn't going to produce the figures neatly, the letters. So another worldwide chat project.
Perfect. Do you, when you apply those, Leo, a little, I'm not sure if you do this or not, but there's a little sort of helpful tip on peel and stick decals. You spray a little Windex or ammonia-based onto the body first, then apply the vinyl decal over it. It will let it sit a bit flatter, and until the Windex dries underneath, especially on lawn decals where you think you've got them on straight and then you go, Jesus Christ, I haven't quite got this on straight. The Windex will let you pull the decal off and replace it a couple of times till it dries.
Right. I did wonder about that. I knew that vinyl wrapping people do that. They use some, I didn't know what the liquid was, but I knew they used some sort of liquid.
Plain old ammonia-based Windex works fine. We've been doing that on all our, all of the stickers that we use on Lexan bodies are all peel and stick. And we've been doing that for, I have no idea how long we've been doing that.
And Chris, to your point, I guess you also have to make sure that the surface is fairly clean, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, the surface should be clean first. Oftentimes with the vinyl decals, you'll get, so if you don't apply them properly, sort of from left to right or right to left or top to bottom or something, you can get some little air bubbles underneath the vinyl, which looks pretty ugly when the plastic's on there. So the Windex helps get rid of all that stuff, and they stick great when as soon as it takes a minute for the Windex to dry and you're all done.
Yeah, I've seen videos of them doing that, and they sort of squeegee the Windex out.
Yep.
When they're happy that the alignment is there, or the surface is covered the right way or whatever. So yeah, I kind of wondered about that, but didn't. The size, I think, was probably okay. I didn't have any issues with it.
Yeah, no. It's just, I mean, the slashes along the body panel is a fairly long decal.
Yes.
And if you're like me, if it's not where you want it to be, it'll just drive you crazy. So the Windex thing helps just give you a couple of chances to reposition it.
Yes.
But Leo, your body work is fantastic. Why the heck did you give me the
Porsche? I'll cover the joins. But yeah, I'm sure your Porsche will be a lot better. In fact, you can see this wheel arch is not great.
No, are you kidding? That's the way it comes out of the factory at Mercedes-Benz.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, Portals could tell you more about what he did to produce them, but he's not here, is he? No.
Well, he's just not going to have that opportunity until he comes here. Then hopefully he'll see this and take it as a challenge and come next week. Does anybody else have any show and tell they want to show and tell and share?
I have a tell.
Go for it, Chris.
Just got back from Ernie's, which is MR Slot Car, and I just had a look at the advanced pre-production models of the XJ220 and the Ferrari 330 SP. Both are neat. Both look good, despite them. Neither one is my favorite all-time car by any stretch, particularly the Jag. But it is very well done. It'll be a good car for shortish club tracks, in that it does not, despite the fact that it looks like a horribly long car in real life, it's not that long, and it has a fairly average guide lead. So for the racers, the Ferrari 330 SP will be a much happier handling car. Also saw some bits from the third car, which will be the one that everybody will be happy to see, but unfortunately I can't tell you what it is. And that's going to be a great car. I've seen some bits off of that. So waiting for some motors from China. We're using the yellow wrapper boxer motor or flat six motor, excuse me, that's in the Slottick cars. That'll be the RTR motor is going to be used, and some neat liveries on both of the 330 and some really cool liveries on the XJ220. So they shall be out when they're out. I'm not gonna.
I have to say though, this is my first experience of slot car burlesque with a tease like that.
Mhm.
Speaking of liveries, Kelly had a topic suggestion. So I will throw that out to the guys. He was just kind of curious, something to chat about, wondering what people's favorite liveries are, and I'll add to that. Whether you're a purist, you know, like you don't like to see a livery on a car it was never on, or you prefer fantasy liveries, or you just don't care like me. As long as it's blue and yellow, you're a happy camper, whatever the case may be. So obviously for me, that's going to be Sunoco and Bilstein and similar blue and yellow liveries. Don't care if it's fantasy or whatever, because I didn't grow up watching these cars on track. So to me, any car that looks like a race car is a good enough.
Well, I can tell you, my favorites are from, you know, Formula One pre-1968. In other words, you know, nothing. Those are my favorites. But if I had to choose one, I would have to go with black and gold JPS, hands down.
No, the red and white one was nice. The gold leaf.
Right.
Really like the gold leaf? Yeah.
Yeah, way better than the JPS.
Yeah.
No, it looks like a cigarette packet going down the track.
Black and gold reminds me of, and don't castigate me here, it reminds me of Firebird Trans Ams, which I just not, you know, the big gold bird on the hood and gold wheels. Just
Smoking the Bandit.
Again, each to his own, but just not for me. The gold by far, but
Black and gold.
do I liveries? I mean, color schemes. Yeah, there it is.
I like that livery on any. Some guys like that golf thing, you know, the orange and the sky blue, and they'll buy anything with that on it. I think I'll buy anything with this livery on it. For me, black and gold, it's just, I always have, ever since I saw this livery, even when I was a kid, before I knew that this was a cigarette packet, I like this livery.
Well, and I'll bet you, Alan, did you have the corgis as well? The 72 corgi? You know,
yeah, I did. Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Well, this is just for Chris.
There it is. Who else would have one? Who else?
I got to tell you, hey, you know what, Mike? Those cars are appreciating in value at an exponential rate.
That's
Right?
why
For
I
me, they're
haven't
probably
touched it.
worth
It's a
$1.50.
terrible car.
What was that, Mike?
I will get rid of it. I got it for a reasonable price. So I'm not getting rid of it until it goes sky high, and I'll make some money on it.
And I didn't hear Chris. You guys were talking over each other.
Oh, sorry, Chris. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, in
Chris-
terms of liveries, I much prefer accurate liveries given a choice. That said, you know, for club racing or proxy racing, in the Can-Am proxy, everybody's going to enter a Lola T70 or a McLaren or some other. So I really can't stand the sight of 6 red alphas going around the track at the same time. So for proxy racing, I will always do a fantasy livery just to have something different on the track. And quite frankly, at our club events, I'll take 2 or 3 cars per class. And when everybody's pulled out whatever they're going to race for the night, I'll go back into the box and pull out something that no one has put on the track so far, just to, you know, just to be a little bit different. So a lot of the proxies, funny, a lot of the Formula One proxies that we've had for years now, you've had to pre-register your number and livery and everything. So very similar to the one that Mark Huber did. I was involved in that for quite a few years. the VRAA and all the rest of the stuff, and no two cars were alike. So you had to pre-register, which looks more like a race to me. I mean, that's, you know. And then when you get up to the wing cars and stuff, there's no such thing as a livery. It's just a little bit of fluorescent paint so you can actually physically see the thing going around. So I don't care.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons with the analog club that I run with EMSA. Our mission statement is to encourage, you know, to help support the industry, right? So we often will have a new series just because a new car came out, a new manufacturer or manufacturer came out with a new type of car. We're like, okay, that's cool, let's do that. But we can't do that oftentimes for months or years, depending on the manufacturer,
Right.
because they've only got 1 or 2 cars. You know, we got 10 or 12 guys, you know, looking at a track with 4 of the same exact cars, just boring. And, you know, maybe only a third of the guys like to do their own paint. So, so we got to wait until that manufacturer has enough cars that will compete together of different liveries that, you know, maybe we'll have 2 of the same livery, you know, rather than all the same exact car.
And you know, Greg, sometimes though that even doesn't work, that you're planning to kind of follow a thread that a slot car manufacturer is creating.
Yeah.
And one thread, I mean 2 threads particularly, slot its touring cars, where they release the Alpha, then the Calibra, then the Mercedes. Those are not equal cars.
No,
you know, the Calibra will eat anything for breakfast. And and also, let me have another excuse to throw some more black and gold up in here. The classic F1 poly cars, beautiful cars, just beautiful. I love the Lotus. It's gorgeous. You know, I won't want to own one in any other color. And it's, you know, it's technically quite difficult, this lay shaft arrangement in line without the crown gear, but getting a set of those on track that are all different models that all compete equally is difficult. And I sort of, maybe my bar is too high, but I expect more of slot car manufacturers. I expect them to be able to produce 4 cars of different bodies, not just different liveries, different bodies of different models, and that they should be somewhat competitive. I don't see that in the slot car market right now.
Well, I mean,
well, Alan, don't worry about how high your bar is, as long as the drinks are free.
Well, I think the closest
Find a drink.
is for, you know, when a manufacturer does that, you get NSR, where they're squashing cars and stretching cars and stuff like that. But if you cannot change the laws of physics, Captain. You know, you're going to have a tall, narrow Alpha next to a short, wide Calibra. It's just not.
You say that about NSR, Greg, but you know, NSR. I mean, once Shivani left NSR, they had a real dearth of quality there for a while. They produced the BMW Z5, not good. The Corvette C6, not so good. And it took a while before the Corvette C7R came along. And then the Mercedes, and then suddenly NSR are back in their mojo. It's not easy to create cars that balance well on the track. You know, there's always going to be the latest, greatest, newest thing. It's a little bit lighter, a little bit faster, a little bit wider, a little bit lower. So getting a mixed grid is always difficult.
It is, and that's why the series that we're finishing up right now, it was a group buy of the Spirit Dallara white kits. So every single car on the track is somebody did their own. You know, I did my terrible blue and yellow job, and some of the guys did a great job, and some of the other guys did as good a job as I did. But every single car is different, which is nice. And they're all the same physically, right, performance-wise, and they're all completely different livery-wise. But yeah, pretty much the only way to make that happen is if the manufacturer makes a lot of liveries of the same car without changing the mechanics in the meantime. Or you end up having to go, you know, buy parts to convert a new car to be like an old car or vice versa. Or everybody paints their own car, which, you know, we did the same thing years ago. We had a NSR hot hatch class where I, of course, got the Fiat 500 Abarth because I have a Fiat 500. and other guys got the Clios and the S2000s, and of course the Clios and S2000s ran circles around the 500s because 500s were narrower and taller, and you know they all ran the same motor and gearing and everything, but they just couldn't. I couldn't corner like those cars could. But I painted it blue and yellow. That's all I cared about. So before we go on performance, does anybody else have any favorite liveries they want to show off? Go ahead,
I
Leo.
like Summerco.
Yeah, you're saying, yeah. We all know that. Just like everybody knows, I love blue and yellow.
The reason I tell you, I've always liked any livery. I mean, so I grew up with racing cars all my life, and it's only that we'd done a 6-hour race, and I thought I want something different, like Chris says, on the grid. And I knew the GT40 never ever ran in the Summerco livery, so I thought that's it. I'm just slapping the Summerco livery over this GT40, and everyone was going, "That's not allowed." I said, "Well, why not?" I said, "It's not an authentic livery." I said, "It's a Summerco livery. The car might not have ran in it, but it's still an authentic livery." And that's how I got around that rule. And then from there on, it's just, well, you know, you've seen it.
Yeah.
Did they change the
Do
rule?
it and ask
for that?
forgiveness.
Like the rule wasn't specific enough, so they updated the rule to say car must have been in a non-nostalgia race. It has to have raced in its time in that livery for it to be a valid livery.
So Paul, what you did, Paul, was a Roger Penske. You read the rule book, and what was more important was what wasn't there rather than what was there.
Yeah. Well, it's like we got a Can-Am race coming up, hence the Lola. But they're all saying, "Oh, they've got to be this, got to be," and then because they know what I'm like, they said authentic liveries or made up liveries are allowed. So I thought, right, I'm going to screw them up both ways because I'm doing the Honka and I'm doing the Lola. So, and they're both authentic liveries for the cars. Well, that one's not because it's having a different engine mount on the back. The exhaust pipes are going over the back because I think it looked nice. But again, I'm messing with them.
That's almost as good as doing the fantasy livery.
You know, this whole thing about the liveries and are they authentic or not, and as a sort of hardcore club racer, I do like to see nice, authentic cars in authentic liveries, but I want to see performance beyond that always. And something that occurred to me the other day, and this harks back to something Dennis said about a month ago, about we're missing some imagination from the slot manufacturers. You know, they're producing GT cars, and Scale Auto are producing another kind of copy of the NSR Formula One car, and there's no imagination. They're not really bringing it on. And Dennis said, well, why is the second series of Can-Am there, the Ski, the Frisbee, the UOP Shadow? These would be fantastic cars on a slot car track. And I would take it one step further and say that in the 1960s, we had thingies, right? The Shinoda and those kind of things. There is a great big gap in the market to produce brand new thingies. They would be awesome. There's one on slot forum land at the moment called the Mystic. And I thought, this is great. This is fantasy land. I love this stuff. This is great. I would want to have cars like this. I would love to have a car like that on my driveway, you know, outside. That would be fantastic. And it just occurred to me something that Singer said about the future used to be better, and that those kind of thingy cars reflect a future that we don't really see anymore, and that's a bit sad, really. We don't see it in real life, and we don't see it on the slot car.
The thingies at the time, there was a car put out by a company called Classic called the Manta Ray, and that was the highest selling slot car of all time.
And to your point, Chris, that car was based on a real car, which actually was built by, the guy who did the Black Beauty and the Monkey Mobile.
George Barris?
No, not Barris. He lies about
Roth.
that. No, it wasn't Roth. It was, what the heck was his name? Shoot, he actually owned one of the GT40s as well. What the heck? Oh, it'll come to me. So I'm terrible with names.
Yeah, the thingies were, there was a period of time where nobody was launching anything other than thingies almost. Probably 66 on for a couple of years. You had Classic, there was a company called Classic, which had probably 15 different models, none of which were an actual real car. They were all thingies of some description. Companies like Monogram went from, doing the Lola GT and the Ferraris. They came out with the Snake and the Viper, and they had all kinds.
The Vampire. Yeah, I had one. Oh, by the way, that was Dean Jeffries. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay, yeah.
Well, Leo keeps trying to show off his car. I'm gonna.
Yeah, come on, Leo.
Shut up for 5 seconds so Leo can show off his car.
Okay.
Yeah,
back in the liveries. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Martini livery, which has been used on numerous cars over the years. And however, the one I particularly like is this, which they basically took the stripes, then chopped them into segments, and then positioned the segments on the car. So this is a Lancia Delta by Team Slot. Team Slot used a bit of artistic license and put this livery on this car, which is one of the later versions of the Delta. But it should have gone on a car like this. This is by Barcelona Universal Models, Bomb Slot, as they're known. And as you can see, it doesn't have the roof spoiler and things like that. This is the proper car, but the paintwork and style is not as nice and sharp as the Team Slot version, which is a nice, sort of very crisp red, very bright, shiny red, and the stripes are done very well. So yeah, so Martini stripes work for me, and in particular this one. This was only used for one World Rally Championship event, which was in Italy, because Martini always liked to have a white background that showed off the livery better than any other colours. But the team wanted to have it red for the rally in Italy, the San Remo rally in 1989. So they did this that year, and that was like the only rally it did in the whole season of the World Rally Championship.
Now, Leo, I know you're a rally guy, but do you have a Brabham BT46?
I do actually.
Uh-huh.
So yes, we've got a few of the Martini Brabhams. Yes.
That's pretty cool. It looks like waving flags of the Martini stripes.
Yeah, it's just sort of you can see where it's sort of they basically cut across and then staggered the pattern.
They must have been drunk when they've done that on
Martini. Yeah. On Martini, of course. Yeah.
What were they drinking?
Actually, you get that beside a JPS car, and you basically have a night at the pub.
Yeah.
And a Marlboro car.
Alcohol and fags. Yeah.
I'll have to have a series of liveries.
No one. Wait, you could have the McDonald's car, and you've got the snacks.
There you go. and then some Marlboro cars for the smoke after.
Yeah.
Anybody else got any liveries they love?
The Elf one was nice livery, wasn't it?
Which one?
The early Elf livery.
Elf.
Tyrrells.
I remember when I was small and I saw that and I thought, my gosh, Santa Claus is sponsoring a Formula One team.
Sure you did, John.
We won't go into that, John.
What you got, Leo? I'm sorry, Lloyd. L words.
You're confusing the two of us again.
Yeah, no, you guys look the same. No.
Yeah. Two things. One, I do have a favourite livery, but the other thing was a few years ago, you probably don't appreciate these in America because you won't have seen them, but we used to have cars that everybody laughed at here. They were called Skodas.
Unfortunately, they were in Canada, and the marketing line was sporty European styling. And as soon as you opened up the engine compartment, all you saw was brown. You thought, why are they painting the engines brown? No, it was rusting already.
The last one I bought, this was a few years ago, I'd had a white one, a saloon car, but I bought a fastback. And when I brought it home, my wife took an instant dislike to it, and she proceeded to hit everything she could with it over the next few weeks to make sure we didn't keep it. It was black, fastback. Somebody had chopped the front spring, so the front was low, and they'd put a big gold eagle on the bonnet.
Jesus.
Why did you buy this? Why did you buy this?
I liked it.
You liked
It was called. It was actually one of the best of the Skodas, and I loved that car. But anyway,
Come on, Lloyd, was that after a night at the pub? Come on, be honest now.
The
Yes,
best,
it was.
best of the Skodas. I'll have to remember that phrase. I'm sure I'm going to use that in the future.
The
The best of the Skodas.
They were the only people who didn't laugh at those old Skodas were the owners, because they went on and on and on. They were great cars.
I would say that there are lots of cars with character that we don't see anymore. And the character cars are the ones that either got bought up by German big engineering like BMW, just made into Volkswagens, or the Saab. I mean, my favorite was always the Saabs. I mean, I loved the look. They were driven by architects. They weren't driven by accountants.
Well, they
So
also,
many
and
of
to
these
your point, Alan, they had quirky things like the ignition switch in the center console.
The button.
Yeah, with the button. That's right. Yeah,
Button,
right.
yes.
And the broken key when you got it wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And apart from always smelling of cheese, they were great.
Well, the earlier Saabs didn't have that, the key thing going on, but I loved them. They went forever. I owned both a 2-cycle and a V4. And I had the V4 was a 95, which is the wagon version of it. It's the only car I've ever been in that I could put the seat back far enough that I couldn't reach the pedals. It's it's really unusual, and it was so versatile. When I sold it, it had 67,000 showing on the odometer, but it was 167, and it just had rusted in the Wisconsin winters. And the guy who bought it did not believe that it had 167 on it. He just wouldn't believe it. He said, "Okay, pay me what a 67,000 is worth, and we're fine." But it was a great car. I loved it in the snow.
I owned one of those. I worked in a Saab dealer for a while, but I owned a 2-stroke, and I also drove a V4 as well, and they were very, very nice to drive.
Yeah,
they handled well.
Nice to drive.
I beat a.
You need to put your foot on the throttle as well as the brake, otherwise the engine seized, right? Because there was no oil reservoir, right? Because it was a 2-stroke. So
some of them were injected.
Yeah, but
some of them had oil injection.
But they were 2-stroke with a free-wheel device.
Yep.
So that if you were driving down long downhills, you had to put the free-wheel device on.
So Lloyd, how many days did you rally home then? Did you do like a Scandinavian flick and all that? Yeah, no.
No, I'm not very good driver like that. But as I say, I liked that old. I like the Saabs and the Skodas, but I also like my Ford Falcon that we had when we lived in America.
What's your favorite livery, Lloyd?
My livery is dark green.
Let me get that. This
one is actually a die cast, but I do have the same car as a resin body running around my track, but I haven't got it in here at the moment.
And it looks like Steve's got something ready to show off.
I just like dark green.
Oh, okay.
Liveries, all of them.
Yeah, so before sponsorships, just a nice.
Before sponsorship, yeah.
Anybody else got anything they want to show off livery wise?
I have something. I'll be back in a second.
All right, Alan.
Anybody else? Oh yeah.
Okay, we'll be back in a second. So
this will set the cat amongst the pigeons. This is my rally car that I obliterate the opposition with, and it causes consternation. And it's one of my favourite liveries.
That's a rally. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's a real brute, and it's based on an NSR Aston, and The rally rules say it must be an authentic rally livery on an authentic rally car. So this is the Ducano car from the ice rally in Finland. You know, if anyone doubts me, you can look up the Finland ice rally. It's a lightweight chassis and it's got a King 30 motor in it. So it honestly does go like stink. And this is one of the rare times when I thought, I'll take that car, and just to make sure everyone understands that it is an authentic rally car, I really tried to get the livery pretty close. I did. It upset some people, but hey, look, I don't care if you're upset. Change the rules if you don't like it.
I like that because I'm trying to build a rally car for East Devon, and they told me my Di Tommaso is illegal, so I'm gonna have that.
There you go. So if you need
what tracks are you running these on? Are they race tracks or proper rally tracks?
No, they're basically sprint tracks. Yeah, they're not rally tracks. No, they're sprint tracks, and this car wouldn't deal too well with bumps and humps and short, sharp shocks. It's a great big long, like I said, it's a King 30 motor. It's on a track that's more equivalently suitable for NSR Mosler's, that kind of track typically.
That's awesome. So a rally car that's not really a rally car, it just happened to be used in an actual rally.
Yeah, several rallies. And yeah, there are pictures of it, and I can, I even bothered to put the website on here because here you go, www.mat.fi or F1 Finland. So it was the Finland Ice Rally, and there's pictures there of MAT's Ice Rally Aston. So there you go. This is typical of me finding the rules, finding the way around them, and abusing the rules, and say, hey, don't like it, change the rules.
I'm surprised it wasn't sponsored by a vodka company.
That's because they were all asleep at summer, crashed out on the wharf or whatever. There's no time to think about rallying when you're just all wasted. Finland's an interesting place. I liked Finland a lot. I did like Finland a lot. They're either all asleep or all procreating or all drunk on the beach. Great place to be.
I was like, I want to go to Finland.
Alan, can you send me some pictures of that?
Okay, if you look on, if you look on Slot Racer forum,
yeah,
I will tag a few pictures of this because if I put them up, I'll just put it there. If you look at Slot Racer .online, and I'll do that, and I'll include all of the necessary bits and pieces, including the link to the Finland MAT Racing that produced that rally car and raced it.
I'm like you on things like that. If I can find a car that they don't like, then I will do it. That's why I ran the Di Tommaso, and then they said it only ran in the what rally was it? What's the one that the Minis first won? Oh, Monte Carlo. You ran in the Monte Carlo,
right?
And they said it's not classed as a rally car because it only done one rally. I said, well, it's done a rally. It's a rally car. No, one rally.
Does the rule say that it has to have done multiple rallies or done different countries or a recognized rally series, or does it just say no? Well, there you go.
They now have printed a list of rally cars that you can choose.
Great.
And that's what you get for being interesting.
No, that's what you get for being a snidey little bleeder.
There you go. Tomorrow,
I want that. That's the next car.
Perfect.
But is it on the list, right? So
I don't care. I haven't had the new list. COVID. Bang. Sorted. I built that during COVID.
Well, build another one. It's not on the list. Yeah. I mean, if they made a list, they're going to point at the list. Don't waste your time and money if they're just going to disavow it.
Well, the good news is that Formula One teams have exactly the same types of conversations.
Yeah, and I think you'll find that what's name wrote most of the rules anyway, didn't he? Bernie Eccleston.
Well, I have a livery related topic to bring up. I like the Aussie V8s. I don't watch the racing all that much, but the cars are cool looking. They sound cool. They're lots of cool liveries. Unfortunately, I was never privy to any of the blue and yellow liveried Aussie V8s because I don't live in Australia, so I didn't even know they existed. So I did a little research and found out that there was a blue and yellow liveried Aussie V8, Scalextric part number C2831, with a Geldwen number 4 livery, and it's kind of a dark navy blue. I should dig up a picture real quick, but this goes out to anybody out there. If you've got the Geldwen Aussie V8 and you're willing to sell it for a reasonable amount of money, hit me up. I said, like, the only place that I can find pictures of this thing are like eBay auctions. It's crazy how much these things are going for. I'm like, what? You know,
Well,
like,
it's too bad Trevor isn't on the call because he could maybe help you out with that.
you mean Travis?
Oh, Travis, I'm sorry. Yeah, I beg your pardon.
That slot car guy. Yeah. You know, maybe he'll respond to me, you know, but he's only been in slot cars for a little while. So, you know, basically the only people that are going to have this are people who've been collecting, you know, down under for a while, because it's, you know, it's on the older side of the Aussie V8s.
What's the number again?
C2831.
831. I know someone, Lee Thorndike, he does resin bodies of all the Australian cars. If he can't get one, I know he can make one for you.
I mean, there's always that option too.
Yeah.
Do you have Mark Burgess's contact information, Greg?
I do not.
Okay, he's on and off here, Slot Car Crazy.
Mhm.
He is a dealer in Oz, so he would probably have a good handle. If I will, do I have it? Yeah, I will find his contact information and get it for you for next week.
I love this. Hey, I think we have a new segment. I know a guy.
I know. I'm trying to get a good picture to pop up. Every time I click on the picture, it brings up some other page. Let's try this here. Open picture.
That guy,
There we go.
not me.
Out and small picture zoomed in here. Let me try that.
Meanwhile, does anyone else have any other liveries that they can? Oh, that's it. Okay.
Jägermeister.
Oh yeah, you know, great livery, terrible drink.
It's a
Nothing
bomb.
wrong with
You gotta use
Jaeger.
it as a bomb.
Nothing.
Oh, you have to be half gone before that stuff even tastes like you can drink it.
It's basically anytime you think of a German delicacy, dessert kind of thing, these are the spices they put into it, and they put it into a liqueur. Essentially, it's a German.
Well, it was supposed to be for medicinal purposes originally.
I'm sure it was.
True
Oh,
story.
it feels much better after a couple of teaspoons of that.
They will make you feel better if you like it or not.
I mean, you can't deny that the Jaeger is a striking livery. You know,
Oh,
orange with, you know, some black and gold.
Or green.
They
I
make
like the green one better.
Like the bottle. Yeah, that makes more sense too. I don't know why.
I just love that they also put their advertising on hockey boards too. It's like, yeah, because you get hit in the head. That's who cares what it tastes like.
What you need, yeah.
It's good as a mixer, you know.
like that,
Jaeger bomb, Jaeger bomb.
If you like those German spirits, there are some really good ones from Hanover. One's called Ratzeputz. It's distilled from ginger. And honestly, it's like Jaeger, except it's a bit more in your face. Jaeger, you can drink and you don't really know what you've done until you've drunk 7. Then you wait, and then you know what you've done. Whereas Ratzeputz, you know straight away. You taste that stuff, you know what you're up against. That's a good one.
And the irony is that Germany has some great wines, and then they put out this stuff.
I would say that Germany makes some great spirits and then they waste their time making wine. Damn.
Yeah, but Tennessee makes the best bourbon.
All right. Anybody else got anything they want to talk about, ask about, tell about, show about, brag about? Guess not. Okay, we'll end the recording here.
Guys, sorry to interrupt. I've got to sign off because I've got unexpected visitors turning up.
All righty.
Okay, Petrucci, thanks for joining us.
Next week.
Bye.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.
I will be a little more honest and say I'm going to sign off because there's something going on the TV in about 10 minutes.
Yes.
Where the whole nation is going to go absolutely apeshit, batshit crazy.
What?
Something New Worlders you won't know about called football. But
some kind of cup.
but England is doing something tonight, so I've got to go.
Well, I thought the NFL doesn't start till the fall. What? Sorry.
See, wrong game. There you go. What does the hockey guy know, right?
Well, I think you have a good chance, Alan.
Sorry?
I think you have a good chance. You should get by Denmark. And with Italy beating Spain, that opened the door. If Spain had beaten Italy, I wouldn't have liked your odds.
I don't think Italy are beatable. I do think, I know we're drifting off the slot car thing here, but Italy
it's coming home. It's coming home.
It's not.
It's coming home. We're going to win. England's going to win.
I never really understood cricket anyways.
Yeah.
Right. It's time for me to go.
Rugby.
And I'll pick up the rest of the recording tomorrow morning. See you next
See you
week.
later, Al.
Okay. Good luck.
See ya.
Bye.
I mean, it sounds like we're fizzling out. We might just
not going.
early and just let you guys talk about.
Don't you guys have like recording devices that you can sort of time shift?
No, you gotta watch it.
Can I just warn everyone now, right? If you hear a large yell and hoop in the background, it's the wife in the other room. She's watching the match. Don't interest me.
Wow. That's cool.
Are you sure you're from that area? Isn't it like illegal to not care?
I listen. I come from London, and I grew up supporting one team, Arsenal, and that team, Arsenal Football Club, Royal Village Arsenal, it was called originally.
Arsenal. Okay, gotcha.
Arsenal. Arsenal.
Yeah, Paul. Greg is very happy you're separated by a very large body of water right now.
Yeah. Why? Is he a Tottenham fan?
I was calling your team Arseholes. That's why.
But in the late 90s, early 2000, half of them were French and half of them were Dutch. So I support France and I support Holland. Well, unfortunately, both of them went out. So I always support the opposition to England every time.
I mean, half of our baseball teams are half Cuban, so you know.
Well, Paul, all I can say, Paul, is I'm glad World War II is over.
Yeah. And I'm glad we're out of Europe as well. Yeah, I've got a bone to pick with you.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, bring it on. What's up?
Your country hit the newspapers over here.
Okay.
Something about statues being ripped down.
Oh, there's nonsense going on. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. There's too much good fortune, too much time, too little IQ.
They got no idea, have they?
No clue. No, it's the growing amount of amnesia through the West is distasteful.
Okay, so on that note, does anybody have any slot car related topics they want to talk on, or I'll go ahead and stop recording? Go ahead, Dewan. What you got?
Well, I did want to ring back on the issue I was having with that SCP controller and the low voltage or the initial voltage draw that's coming. I still have that issue going on. I had for the 4th of July, I had quite a few family and friends over and about a dozen kids. And so I turned down the volume, I turned on the voltage, et cetera, to kind of let them go around the track a few times. But yeah, that controller is depending on the voltage that's being sent there, it's gonna drain the initial 3 to 5 volts. So I don't know, and I was doing some additional testing and things like that, and I'm still trying to. I initially was going to get 2 of those controllers, and then I said, well, maybe I need to get 4 just to put everybody on the fair playing field. But Greg, I know you said that this is uncharacteristic, and I'd probably like to troubleshoot that to see if I can keep my competitive. Because I do have a few Professor controllers already that I didn't want to really throw out. If I'd have to replace them all with the SCP remote, wireless ones.
Well, have you had a chance to bring it by any other track? You know, there could be some kind.
Well, I can try it. I've tried it on multiple tracks. I have multiple tracks that I can put it on, and I definitely did it on all the different lanes. And it's definitely and I have my voltmeter. I can put that on there and see exactly what's going on, and it travels with the controller itself.
Okay, so on each track, do you have every track has its own power supply, its own everything, or are you?
No, I have a single power supply.
Okay, let's
going to all 4 tracks, all 4 lanes.
So
that's for that. But I have another track. I can put another track with its own separate power supply, and I actually did not do that. I'll be honest with you. I did not go and put it on another track, but I have multiple power supplies and multiple tracks that I could lay out just to test the concept. Because this is a hardwired track with power taps throughout, and it's all the other controllers. You know, I have probably about 2 dozen controllers or so, and there's definitely this is the only one that's has that power drain, and it may be again a defective device, this particular one. So I may try to go that route as well. I want to actually talk to or have some troubleshooting from the manufacturer's level, I guess, to see if there's if it's a known characteristic or if it's just a fluke that I need to have them address.
Dewan, do you just have the one of those controllers, or?
Well, yeah, I started with one because it's about a $400 investment,
right?
Thereabouts, so not quite. Anyway, so I wanted to try it out one. My intention was to get at least 2, just to have it strategically, place the drivers strategically more around the track in different areas, to be able to.
I mean, not that this should be an issue, but just being silly about it. But are they made to work in pairs? I mean, I don't know.
Oh no.
Come on, seriously. That's the silliest thing. Okay, so for whatever reason, my microphone does not allow me to interrupt anybody speaking unless I'm like shouting and they stop for like a second. So you need to use the scientific process. Process implementation. You need, since that's why I asked, are you moving your power supply around to these tracks? Maybe it's the power supply that is not able to do the right kind of power. Maybe there's electricity is weird, right? And so your other controllers are probably all, resistor-based controllers, or much simpler controllers. Like you don't have a third eye, you don't have a DeFalco.
Well, I have two electronic professor motor controllers. I have 2 electronic controllers, and I have another half dozen Parma resistor controllers and some old Cox controllers. The only 2 I have 3 that's in the electronic realm: the SCP and the 2 professor motor controllers.
So the professor motor controllers are not using MOSFETs to feed the power. They're not PWM controllers. They're electronics, meaning they're using diodes and things rather than a coiled resistor, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so they function entirely different from an electronic standpoint than the SCP does. Okay. I'm not saying that that's definitely the problem, but since that is also moving from track to track along with the SCP controller, you need to stop moving that from track to track. So use your other power supplies with your other tracks, even if it's a wall wart, just something other than that power supply, just to
that's easy to do.
Yeah, just to eliminate that from the equation. And then there might be something physically wrong with that SCP. It could be the cartridge itself. It could be the CRI.
I'm sorry. I was gonna say I did try it wired directly and not using the
Wireless.
yeah, the wireless. So and it's the same characteristics. Pulling the power drain, initial voltage, and it varies, like I said, between 3 to 4.8 volts.
Yeah, so that to me that points at there's being something wrong with that cartridge, because I guarantee I'm not losing any volts
Yeah.
cartridge. So, try a different power supply just in case, because like I said, the SEP functionally electronics work completely differently than than daisy chain diodes on a professor motor controller or a coiled resistor on your Parma controller. It doesn't work the same. So the electricity that it's needing, that it then converts and outputs, is going to work differently than those other controllers. But I've used my controller on all kinds of different power supplies, and it never has a problem like that. So I'm more inclined to believe that there is a problem with that cartridge. So if you could take it back to the store, or or even just take it to somebody else who has another SEP controller with their own cartridge that they're using, or send it back and say, this ain't working, test it on your
that's where I was tending to. So yeah, I probably will go that route. Maybe just go ahead and get that second one and test it out as well, just to see if it has doesn't have these characteristics.
Yeah, and it absolutely should. You would be able to use 20 of those in the same environment together and not have any problems. So it's definitely got nothing to do with the wirelessness or SEP or whatever. There's something wrong going on, and this is the handle is an SCP-3 handle, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, so it doesn't even have the power limiting kid mode option to accidentally get into, as far as the settings are concerned. You can't accidentally power limit that controller. You have to know that you're doing it on purpose. And I don't think it's even currently an option, because Slotted is planning to add that as an option in the app, and you can't change that right now. It's not in the app yet, so I don't think it's any settings on the controller. And so unless there's, you already eliminated the wirelessness by doing it directly connected to the controller, so it's not even wireless, and it still has that problem. I'm thinking there's something wrong with that cartridge.
Okay. Well, that could be it. I'll definitely reach out. I was hoping to do it before this call. See if I got any response back from my dealer. It's Lockout Corner, so I'll touch base with Steve over there.
I'm sure it'll be fine. He'll say, "Oh, no worries, send it back." Maybe he'll send you a replacement and say, "Make sure this works," and if it doesn't, then send them all back, or whatever the case may be. Or just buy the second one. I would talk to him first, just to make sure he doesn't.
Yeah, I'm gonna reach out to him. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, these are the kind of situations where I wish you were down the street, so I could just come over with my stuff and say, "Oh yeah, yours is busted. Send it back." It happens. It's yours is the first example I've ever heard of one of these doing that. So sucks to be you.
It was so funny, because I have 4 lanes, and I was trying to keep using that controller, and the kid that got that controller, he would be sitting up there frowning and looking at his car just barely going around the track, and everybody else is laughing him 4 or 5 times.
Oh, yeah, that's no good.
Yeah. All right.
Well, hopefully we hear some good news about that in the future.
Now, Dewan, did the kids have fun? Like, did
they did. Oh, absolutely. And I have some reconstructive work to do, of course.
I was going to say, that was my next question, if you have a damage report. Yeah.
I did give them my Road Warriors to playing with, so I didn't put them out the real. Yeah, I just gave them something that I wasn't too worried about.
Yeah, but still, that's half the fun, is just seeing how deep you can go before you start to break.
but they were learning. They really got into. I put it just. I think we were sitting at 9 volts is what I kind of got them at. Just to try to, and I went to 9 volts only because I was trying to get the SCP controller to get enough to see them around the track. Otherwise, I'd probably turn them down to like 7.5 to 8 volts. But nonetheless, so the other ones they had to drive, and they learned to drive, so it was pretty good.
Let me ask you: were there boys and girls, or just boys?
Yes. I had almost 2 girls at each race.
I'm gonna.
Now, did the girls go faster sooner than the boys?
That's what I'm getting to. God damn it. You guys interrupt me, and I can't talk. You guys start. Damn it, John. Did the girls learn faster than the boys? Yes, they did. They always do.
Yes. I had one of those a Cox control.
I'm gonna trash the fucking camera of this microphone. I hate it.
I had my 10-year-old granddaughter around last weekend, and she had Lee, I'd said to her about, I'll get you a car built. He made her a frozen car, and she was running around it on my track. And I gave her Maggie's controller because it's got a true speed controller with a great big lump of bolts wood stuck to there, so she can't go flat out and wreck another car. So I filmed her, and she went through about 8 or 9 laps before she actually come out the spot, and she was getting quicker and quicker and quicker.
And you know that happens in real life as well. It does. Yeah, the girls go faster sooner than the boys, because I've experienced that, where the instructor comes up to you face to face and says, "So you're going to listen now?"
Now that they've shown you that you're not as good as you think you are.
Oh yeah, there's nothing worse than thinking you're good.
Yeah,
and having girls beat you.
Well, if that ever happens, I'm just going to keep hitting the kill switch on the track. Oops! Oh dear, you were smart there then.
You were beating me. That's not allowed.
Yeah. Or definitely knock her out. That'd be another one. Always put her on the outside of me. Bang. Oh, sorry, darling. But she's 10. She's 10, and she's going to be a lot quicker.
I was going to ask Alan, because I think Alan was also, he's an SCP diehard as well, and see if he had, but I know he just dropped off the call, but I wanted to get, throw it out here and see what everybody else had any kind of issues with that before. So
I mean, like I said, that's your case is the only time I've ever heard anybody having that issue. Not that there aren't ever any issues with the SCP controller, but that particular issue, you're the one.
Okay.
So yeah, there's something wrong with it. It's not you.
All right. Well, I'll get with Steve later today.
All right. Anybody else? Should I go ahead and stop the recording? I think I will, unless somebody wants to bring something up. Steve, you got something you want to bring up?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
The last couple of weeks, we've kind of opened the track up looking for other people in town that kind of want to get involved in it and so on, and it's worked pretty well. So we've picked up 2, they'd be newbies to us, 2 people. They have tracks just basically on the floor, bought sets during COVID, etc. They very much want to join the group. And the question that they both asked is, how do I do that? What do I buy? And what's the progression of events? Okay. This controller discussion has always interested me because I put controllers way, 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 way down the list as far as stuff to get. For many reasons, but I think learning to drive is infinitely more significant. Then get a controller and pick up some more tints. But drive. And whether you do that with a 35 ohm Parma or anything else other than push buttons that come with them, I think it's an incredible waste of money for a long time. But that's another discussion. And it's a pretty good one. Having gone to a couple of regionals and watched guys with 35 ohm Parmas clean up, while guys walk in with their 400, never mind. That's another discussion over the years. But the discussion is interesting is, where do they start spending their money? That's really what they want to know. They've got a track. I don't know what it looks like, good, bad, or otherwise. They are both Carrera tracks. certainly I told him, get yourself a couple of cheap controllers. That was my, and change the tires on all your cars. And now start learning to tune, rudimentary tuning, and we'll go from there. We have 12 classes here, keep coming. We got plenty of cars, use our cars, don't run out and try and buy a car to go in every class. But the most interesting thing was where should they start spending the money for the progression? They both asked. They've been reading, researching, doing the usual Google stuff everybody does when they get into a hobby. And they both asked if they should buy a hotshot controller. And I told them both I didn't think so yet. That's where I put that on the list as you're getting into this hobby. So I would be interested in other opinions. So they'll both be back tomorrow night, and we'll go from there. And
are they planning
our
on
goal
racing?
is, let me finish first. Our goal is to keep them interested in the hobby. Too many people, this track's been going for about 12 years here. And come and go have been over 40 people, at one time or another, in and out, in and out. Several leave by just pure intimidation, whether that be economic or how good the guys that are already here are. I'll leave it at that. So here comes newbies into the hobby with that basic question. I'd like to hear other opinions.
Well, I can chime a little bit on that because I've been with the hobby for 50 plus years, but I had a good 35-year hiatus. And I don't consider myself a racer. I consider myself as a hobby enthusiast. So I don't build up an arsenal of things to go and compete and race against other people. And I don't know if that's what their focus is, or if they're just love just having common cars or similar cars in a competition with family members and just friends and things like that. So
no, we're a racing group.
Yes, racing.
But we are not a hardcore racing group. We're casual racing. We have a computer control built-in handicap system that equals things out, but we do race.
So
I'm sorry.
I'll point out that although you said don't get a hotshot controller, you did in fact say get a controller.
Get rid of the push button thing.
Get rid of the crappy set controller.
Correct.
But if you say get a 35 ohm Parma and they put an NSR on, they might do better with a 45 or a 55 or a 25 or whatever, depending on how they drive, whether it's magnets, what the traction is, what the voltage is. So if I'm going to give you a list of what I would prioritize on a limited budget, because I started out with a very limited budget, here's what I would say. And because you started out saying that these are people who bought tracks during COVID, they've got a little floor, they're rug racing right now. How can they wisely spend money in order to work more quickly into the casual racing group that you are without being intimidated or spending too much money? So,
right.
Like you said, they need to drive, right? In order to drive, they need to practice, which means they're doing it on their home track. So I would say probably the best money that you can spend, even with their crappy set controllers, is a variable voltage power supply. You can get a $25, $30 bare bones variable voltage power supply off of eBay or Amazon that will let them, turn it down between 5 and 15 volts. It doesn't have to go to 0, it doesn't have to go to 30, 5 to 15 volts. And then, use that instead of their wall wart, because then they'll be able to more quickly adjust and learn to drive even with their crappy set controllers if they can turn the voltage down just a teeny bit, because if they're running with set, unadjustable, typically 15 volt power supplies, it's going to be an on and off switch. So if they can adjust the voltage so that they can get into slowing down without coming off, and then they can start turning up the voltage as they get better with that. And then a controller, a better controller, a more ergonomic controller. I don't like thumb things, but some people do. But an ergonomic controller whether that's a true speed or a Parma or a bottom of the barrel professor motor, a 2-knob professor motor, you know, it depends on their budget. But I personally would encourage a controller with some adjustment, like a 2-knob professor motor with that basic sensitivity and braking adjustment, or an SCP, because they're about the same price. Because while they're learning to drive, being able to, even with the lower voltage, being able to turn down the sensitivity or turn down the brakes or turn up the brakes or vice, you know, do all these basic, those 2 adjustments along with voltage will much more quickly ease them into learning how to drive. And absolutely, learning how to drive is number 1 on how do you get into a club and not be discouraged. Once they're in the club and I'm racing with a guy that I know is still learning and I'm trying not to discourage him, I'm trying to encourage him, I will race behind him or race right in front of him. I won't run laps around the guy because that's super discouraging, you know. And if he comes off, that's fine. But if I'm on the track with him during some practice time, then I'll just tail him or just lead him so that he sees where I'm braking, he sees where I'm accelerating without completely losing sight of me while I'm lapping him, right? That kind of teaching encouragement. But as far as spending money, I'm going to say, you know, low-end adjustable power supply, affordable controller that feels good in the hand, and then cars. Because I think
I was gonna switch that around.
People who just get into the hobby, they're like, this is great, that's a cool car, I'm gonna buy that car. That's $50 out of the budget. Oh, that's another cool car, I'm gonna buy that car. Another $50 out of the budget. You could have had a decent adjustable controller for those 2 cars and just have the 1 car that you're gonna race on the track with the guys, rather than 10 cars with crappy ass controllers and a wall wart power supply.
Greg, I think you're absolutely right on the power supply.
Yeah.
I mean, we run tattoo parlor power supplies.
Yeah,
They're $30 a pop. They're digital. You know, I've got a stack of 4 of them. I mean, they're just perfect. That's an excellent idea. The controller thing, I still think it can be as basic as possible for a long time, but that's me, you know.
If you find a nice middle of the range, like you're saying, the 35 ohm Parma is gonna be pretty good for most cars, especially the kind of cars that you're driving with your club.
They're not going to run out. Yeah, we're pretty careful. Our classes are divided into full bore modification, some of them box stock tires only, you know, with some of them without, you know, and we make it a point when new people are here to, number 1, run the slower classes like Trans Ams, which are box stock with tires and so on. So we're pretty careful about that. We also do the driving with them during the practice before qualifying. We call it leading, where we just lead right in front of them enough to drag them along and show them what their car actually can do in a corner, you know, versus how, you know what I mean.
Well, Steve, sorry to interrupt, Steve, but I think that you're taking the right approach, because I can guarantee you the experience of driving on your track, which has constant power, that has been, you know, really designed well, versus someone who's putting something out of a box on a floor where there may be some drop off depending on how big it is. The driving experience is night and day.
It is. Plus, you can't bombard somebody new in the hobby with the entire hobby.
Yeah.
Everybody will find their way. You know, they'll either hate having a scenery track or not want one. They'll like to tune cars or they won't. They'll want to build brass or forget it. I mean, everybody will eventually find a niche, but what you can't do is say, you've got to attach yourself to all these niches if you're going to be good at this hobby. Then they're screwed, you know, and they won't be back. It's got to be simple and fun, period.
Well, I think you're on the right track, because it sounds like you have a really good supportive group of guys.
Also, helpful.
That, and we have a really sophisticated handicap system and built into the computer, and it's a lifesaver. So yeah, there's no other way to word that. So when we run that, everybody, just about no matter how slow you are within reason, you know, has a chance of winning.
I think probably one of the, I think one of the best survival,
Go ahead, Chris.
I think one of the best survival tactics for most clubs is the guys in the club.
True.
And
True.
they really need, I mean, you know, you run a box stock car with tires. Box stock cars, in my opinion, are some of the hardest cars to set up because there's so many little things you can do to a box stock car. So that really brings in the members of the club to say, here's what you do, here's what you don't do. Here's how to get the maximum out of your car. Driving the car is practice. I mean, you can help all you want, but until you do it, I mean, you just got to go around and around and around. And
That's true.
and some guys don't get it. Do you essentially run pretty much the same motors in all of your classes?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
In which case, if you run a bunch of different motors, I really do think a basic Professor motor controller that with a sensitivity, not so much the brakes, but the sensitivity allows a more consistent feel across a wide range of engine characteristics.
I agree with that. And the brakes are built into the panels, so that part's okay anyway.
Right.
When I say variety of motors, it's simply on the 12 classes, several of them, well, let's keep it simple. Like Group C, you're not allowed to change much of anything besides tires. In other words, no new motor, you can change the gear ratio and a few things like that, but you can't throw money at it.
Right.
The Cobra class, simply because I have a Cobra, is balls to the wall. Do anything you want to it.
Yeah.
You know, and you can drop $150 in one of these little toy Cobras in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So we won't run that class for a while. You know, those kinds of things. I get what you're saying. I do agree with you.
Yeah, and I mean, the only point is if everybody's, you know, if everybody's running an orange end bell slotted motor stock, you know, a 35 ohm controller is fine. We just leave now, unless we have what we call our serious Saturdays, but for our Thursday night racing that we do every week and where these guys will come for a while, hopefully. We just leave two Parma 35s there for everybody to use. Nobody even brings a controller. Yeah, which is totally fine. If guys decide, you know, as a lot of newer guys will decide that I'm in the open class, so I need the 400,000 RPM motor in this thing. That's just not going to work with a 35 ohm controller. So.
Oh, I know. I have got a closet full of good ones.
Yeah. So I for the type of racing you're doing, I would not advocate guys go out and buy a Ruddick or a Karsten or anything like that. But, you know, an $80 Professor motor controller with an adjustable sensitivity is going to work fine. I think I've told this story before, but I used to play college golf, and we would tinker around with grip sizes and grinds and tape and just never give up on the golf clubs. And our coach used to walk behind us and, you know, he'd say, you know, it's still the same idiot at the end of the club. So, you know, if you can't get your finger working, it's not going to make a whole bunch of difference. But
right.
An inexpensive sensitivity adjustment, I really think, and it makes a huge difference. And my slant was, how do you get these guys onto your track? So a power supply is important for my track and their track. But if they're coming to race with you guys and wanted to save a few bucks, I would go with a sensitivity adjustment on the controller. And then it's up to you guys to help the newbies on saying, you know, you need to put spacers here and you need to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're just not going to find that stuff out.
No, I agree. Interesting.
Yeah, don't ever turn them away from your boxes. When they come along and look at your box, what you got, so say, oh, what's that? Always open up to them. Say, yeah, look, I've done this, I've done that, I've done that to it.
Yeah.
Never say, well, I'm not telling you what I've done to mine.
We have at the commercial the last couple of commercial tracks I worked at, when we've raced plastic base 32nd scale cars. At the end of every race, before the race, I'll have somebody draw like 3 numbers out of a hat, like 1, 7, and 12. So at the end of the race, I'll call up the cars that finished 1st, 7th, and 12th. The bodies have to come off and the cars sit on the countertop, and the owners have to be there, and everyone else gets to look at the cars and ask questions about, why did you use this thickness of a lead wire? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? Why did you do this and this and this? So, you know, trying to be as open as purely possible. I mean, there were times when, you know, in the early 70s when I was racing all over the place, that you wouldn't talk to anybody because we were all factory sponsored guys and you're there to win, and it was high pressure and stuff. But, you know, for the clubs we're at now, in order to keep guys there, you've got to, you know, make everybody at least, I mean, one thing I'm sure you do, Steve, is one of the tracks I've helped at for quite a few years, we'll have a minimum lap time. So that everyone can be somewhat competitive. You know, the fast guys, the better guys still win, but the bottom guys, because there is a breakout time, just get a little bit closer. So you've really got to get the newbies thinking that before too long, they've got a chance of doing respectably well. You know, if they just come out every week and spend their money and they just get pounded into the ground, they're not going to, you know, no one's going to hang around too long.
That's the reason we have the handicap system. We do it by altering the fuel stop time.
Yep.
And the computer, 2 things actually. The computer works with your qualifying time. So if you drive slower than your qualifying time, you do not use as much fuel as a ramp in the program. Yep. If you drive faster, you burns down your fuel faster. We can change that ramp. Yep. And then the handicap is the amount of time it takes to get fuel. Yep. And so the base is 10 seconds to get a total load.
Right.
And we just alter that. You know, I may end up getting fuel for 30 seconds against some new guy. You know.
I mean, it's just basically a different way of putting in, you know, a minimum lap time. I mean, it ends up doing sort of the same thing, right?
We have minimum lap times built into it too, and we alter those if we need to. And if you do break that, we used to cost you a lap.
Yeah.
Now we just have it. It's a 5-second stop and go in the pits.
Yeah.
But that's still 5 seconds and another couple on each end to get stopped and get rolling again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all those things are aids.
Yes.
But if a newbie brings out a car and pulls it straight out of the box, and he's racing another out of the box car that's been blueprinted, you know, fuel stops and all the rest of the stuff aren't going to make it. So that's,
yeah, we wouldn't let that happen.
Try this, do this.
Yeah, that wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
You know, I know, we know better than that. No. No. We take it over. I mean, you can do a 10-minute pretty quick tune on out of the box plastic car. I mean, just between tires, a little bit of float, maybe a little bit of sandy, maybe drop the guide a little bit. All that takes about 15 minutes.
Right.
And the car is night and day from what it was out of the box. No little oil, but you know what I mean. But no, we wouldn't let that happen. I get that.
Yeah. In which case, it doesn't really sound like you have a problem.
He's just trying to nip it, you know, prevent quick loss.
I have the progression discussion is still somewhat problematic. This hobby to some people is an expensive hobby. To other people, it's not.
Yeah.
I would place these two in the middle, kind of. They're not going to run out and buy a $125 controller tomorrow. They're not going to do that.
Right.
I don't know what Parma's cost now. They used to be $50. I'm sure they're 75 now.
Finance now is the issue.
But I mean, I'm just saying that you still, you know, it's easy to drop a quick $200, $300, $400 into this hobby when you start talking about a few cars to be in a few of the classes, a power supply, controller with whether it's a professor motor or you're not quite as good.
Yeah, and Steve, you're not even counting tools, right? Yeah.
You just spent $500 to make a slotted Porsche go faster. You know, it's, you know, you got to figure out a way to sneak into it and still keep it fun.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
we had, on Saturdays for months and months and months, we had a
can't even hear me.
All right.
No, it's not you. I'm complaining about the microphone. I know Dewan had something that he wanted to ask or bring up or add to the conversation.
I was just gonna say that my order would have been again a similar the power supply. That's because I promote and I actually have so many different sets I give away or sell off and things like that. Number one thing I tell everybody to do is to change that power supply from that it's rated at 12 and it's really giving out 15.6 or whatever. Change that out so that you can get better control and can gauge and build up your skill set. And then I have them go ahead and get a couple of nice cars that they like and the tires. And then the controller, I do recommend controllers, but a little bit down the road, it wouldn't be number 2, it would probably be number 3, 4-ish for me to recommend to the newbies that are getting into it. But once they try, and I haven't tried my controllers, they're coming over to my place or something like that, they see the world of difference between the standard out of the box controller versus what you can get out of it. It's just the smooth gliding and the ability to have control. You have control. That's what it's for.
Well, they are.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. They're wonderful, you know.
I mean,
but everybody doesn't have one.
I mean, even like, you know, just between, let's say, for example, I got a new Scalextric set. You know, some of their analog sets come with a controller that is the same shape, same ergonomics as their wireless one. So it's actually a fairly ergonomic, fairly good feeling controller. But sometimes the springs are really, really strong springs. And so you get finger fatigue, or, you know, it feels like an on and off switch because it's harder to have a middle ground. It's all, you know, as soon as you start pulling it hard enough to go, you end up pulling it because you're not used to it, right? Some of us, we could drive a stiff spring, no problem. But even if they got a low end, you know, low end set controllers or whatever, you know, even just going to the hardware store and picking up a box of you know, miscellaneous springs, they could turn a cheap set controller into a half decent controller just by putting a lighter spring into it. You know, as long as it's strong enough to pull the trigger all the way back to 0 and it doesn't kill your finger muscles when you're trying to race for more than 5 minutes at a time, that's a big improvement right there. Mm-hmm. So that's a cheap way, you know, and yeah, I think it's all good stuff. Great topic. Anybody else got anything? I think Bill had something to add.
You know, and during this last year, I've given away 7 slot card sets. Each one has had a 27 to 32 foot lap length. Nice. And whenever I've done that, and I've given away at least 3 cars with each set, so that there are 2 laners, you know, and there's a spare car in case there's a problem. You can call me up and I can get with you and help you fix your car. But, you know, I don't go get new power supplies for everyone. You know, it's enough that I'm giving them, you know, Scalextric Sport Track, you know, fully functioning. Oftentimes I'm buying additional controllers. You know, cars are always practically new, if not absolutely new. You know, the way you'll get your cars should be is either I'll look online and someone will have a bunch of cars that are new out of sets that they've parted out, and I'll grab a half dozen of them. But the thing that I found that I think happens with all these newbies when they call, the biggest problem they have is not that they don't know how to slow down. The first thing I tell a new track owner to go and get when they buy a set is guardrail. And, you know, that is the #1 problem. Is they'll go, well, I learned how to drive and I can stay on the lane when I'm not on the outside. when I'm on the edge of the track, they always say the edge of the track, and they always mean wherever the outside lane is in a given curve. And when they get to the edge of the track, they fall off. And I just go, you know what? Go buy yourself some guardrail, preferably buy aprons with guardrail. But if you can't afford it, sure, put some cheater fences on the outside lane, and then just build a figure 8 so that each person has, you know, some time on the guardrail, right? If it's retaining fence rail instead of set of aprons where you can drift the back end out. But that is the number one thing that I think a hobbyist can do, because whether they go buy good tires or bad tires or anything else, they're going to come off the edge of the track. And as soon as those back tires leave, it's not fun anymore, because you always wipe out. You always crash. So I'll usually go guardrail
That's
first.
interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah. And then if they're knowledgeable enough, and here's the other thing I find, when I say go get a power supply, I'm giving tracks to families, you know, and these guys are doing their own home repairs and stuff. And as soon as you say go get a power supply, I found that most people who can fix a sink cannot deal with an electrical switch. You know, they can mechanically install a switch, but they don't understand volts, they don't understand ohms. A lot of times they don't really know polarity. I mean, it's really simple stuff for those of us who've been in a hobby a long time. But if I don't go back and consult with them, they can go buy 100 power supplies. They'll never plug one in and have it work. So I have a tendency to skip the power supply and say, you know what, you got some guardrail, you learn to slow down. If this controller doesn't feel good to you and you want it, and they'll come to my house, and I've got Professor motor controllers. Some of my buddies got, you know, $400, $500 controllers. I just say to them, look, you can get this controller if you want, but, you know, you might be better served by, even if you don't buy lane changers, I try and make sure that they've got a Scalextric card that can take a DPR chip. I've generally centered around Scalextric just because it's easy, and it's easy to go digital later if they go to someone's house. And I just say, look, go get a couple of DPR chips and buy a digital upgrade kit. It's like $135 for the kit. You get another 15-volt wall wart, but you get digital controllers. Then you can put an voltage to your heart's delight. You can run with 4% power, or you can run with 100% power, and it solves a problem, you know, and it gets them to the next potential generation of technology, not just with Scalextric, but then they can look at slotted controllers, they can look at all kinds of stuff. So
I get it.
I kind of have some product mix there that I've spoken brand specific, but it can be done with Carrera just as easily. With the Carson chip, again, you know, they could have, you know, if I had a good supply of Carrera track, and someone said, hey, I'm going to make you a good deal on this track, I would do it with Carrera, slap a Scalextric's car in there, and if they ever wanted to go digital, they just go buy Carson chips and get Carrera digital. You know, I'm brand agnostic from that perspective, but I try to get them so, yep, they're going to have to learn to control a car no matter what at home. And realistically, they're not going to have, their home track is not going to turn into our club track. So trying to get them to upgrade their home track so it becomes like a club track, no good. But when they're home and they're fledgling, those are the first things I do. You know, and then I do invite them out to the club and try to get them going, and I tune a car for them when they come out. Then they can lose just as handily as I do every race.
All valid points, Phil. But I think in this specific case, Steve's wondering about how do you get guys interested and competitive on his club, which is not digital, and probably doesn't have guardrails smack dab up against the track. It has borders. So if you just say to somebody, how do I improve my home experience to run around on the carpet, that's probably a little bit different than how do I integrate into a club and feel somewhat competitive given the club track that I'm on? So I wouldn't personally suggest that you go out and buy guardrails, because Steve's track doesn't have guardrails on them. And if you know, once you use a crutch, you're always going to use the crutch, and then you get to Steve's and it's completely different.
Yeah, I agree.
The umbrella of this overall topic of, you know, encouraging, you know, newbies to
I'm not-
hobby. What I was going to say regarding, I mean, Phil made some great points as far as, you know, easily controlling power without getting an adjustable power supply. But I would never just say go out and get an adjustable power supply. I would say, here's what I would recommend. You know, here's a link to the eBay or Amazon for the tattoo power supply, or the Chinese power supply, or things like that. And you know, I don't like writing guardrails, and I don't like writing business side with that. But at the same time, that is an inexpensive way for people to continue driving around. I mean, they got to learn to control it in the turns. And because they're going to be on the inside lane somewhere.
I'm not telling, I don't tell people go buy guardrail. That's not what I said. What I said is go buy aprons. But if you absolutely, positively can't afford, I'll be more emphatic. If you have $1, you can only buy a piece of guardrail. But if you got $8, you can buy an apron that'll have guardrail on the edge of the apron. And I see plenty of club tracks that have some type of guardrail at the edge of the apron, or a catch wall because they're on a table that keeps the car from going to the floor. So my point with people are learn to drive your car, even on your home set. So when you go to the club, you've got something that can drift in the corners. Preferably, that's what you go by. So that's what I'm talking about guardrail. That's the first thing. And then the second thing I'm saying is, we're talking about track time. And if the club isn't open for them to go get track time all the time, all I'm suggesting is, you know, that you kind of convert your home set so that the edge of the track is not where you're going to fall off. And then at the end of my conversation, my little diatribe, I said, then I invite them out to the club. And some of the things that I found keep them coming to the club are loaner cars, but I'll just take a loaner car. I'll have 8 of some class, and I'll go, you know what, we're racing, you know, L88 Corvette. They'll come out to run L88 Corvette. I'll have 3 of them there that are my own personal property. If they come out and they run and they have a good time, I'll give them the car that, if they can't afford it, or I'll say, hey, get yourself an L88 Corvette. Let's get together, and then we'll build your car out, and I'll show you everything that I know, which is not going to make you win against the guys who are much better at tuning their cars than I am, and they're equal drivers to me. But what it will do is it'll make you competitive easily. And I think the thing that Chris was saying about randomly draw 3 numbers out of a hat and then get those cars opened up on race night and have people look at them, I think that's huge. You know,
Brilliant.
To me, that's a giant step in knowledge sharing that forces a knowledge share and doesn't make anyone feel like they're picked on, because, you know, they're always having people come go, hey, after the race, open your car. You know, and I don't mean picked on negatively, but I mean called upon too often. So yeah, I'm going to incorporate that into our club activity.
That's a good one. And I'm kind of I'm reading Steve's mind and thinking, at the same time, he doesn't want to scare them away by showing them the breadth of the hobby and saying, oh, here's my slotted, it's got suspension springs and spacers, and you know, I put the lube here, here, and here, and I turned the motor this way and I glued it in, and do it just like showing, because yes, you're wanting to teach them, but at the same time they're like, oh shit, I've got to do all that stuff to be competitive.
Greg, that's right on the money. That's exactly how it happens.
Yeah,
You bombard them with all this tuning shit and you will never see them again. That won't happen. They've got to slowly and still feel like they're somewhat competitive, You know, they're not getting their ass kicked, you know, all over the track. Nobody's making fun of them. Nobody's saying you don't know how to tune your car. Just keep it simple. Buy a Group C car, put on some tires. We'll run the Group C class because we know they're new. We'll put on our tires. We'll show them how to adjust some quick float, and they'll have a good time, and they'll be slower than the rest of us. And with the handicap system, they'll be somewhere up, you know, but they will feel like they could win. And then they'll go home and they'll come back.
That's
and
the main thing.
if you know, if we kick their butt all over the track when they come, they'll pretty soon they'll quit coming.
Yep. Well, Steve, that, you know, of course, we all have our own reality we live in. And in my club, it's almost all, you know, I mean, everybody says box stock, but they're not box stock. The first thing that happens is they come out of the box and they get tires, you know, but they're cars that come out of a box. It is a magnet club. There's a magnet marshal, and people will help you get within the magnet range. But generally speaking, you're pretty much on the money when you take the thing out of the box. And usually it's you need to add a little magnet. You almost never have to take it away, which is real hard to do. So in our club, it's kind of a natural, like your Group C. You take it out of the box, you put some tires on it, and you go out and you race. I don't have a tire truer. I don't have any of that stuff. I don't even have a setup block that's in good shape right now.
Yeah, what are you telling? I don't know what you're telling me.
So what I'm saying is, just like you're saying about not bombarding them with stuff, in our club, you're probably not going to get bombarded because we don't have like a totally modified class or an open class. We don't have that.
Okay.
We have change of tires, stock wheels, stock gears.
I think we got you, Phil. But let me interrupt you for a second here. I want to ask you a more specific question. I'm going to rephrase Steve's question. So, for people who cannot, or for whatever reason cannot give away sets and cars and controllers to people, but want those people to come and not feel intimidated and not feel like the hobby is too complicated or too expensive or anything, but they do show an interest in wanting to participate in the hobby without borrowing your cars and controllers every single time, how would you prioritize how they spend their budget?
That's about it.
So Dewan's ready to answer. Phil, I'll let you answer after Dewan.
Well, I was just going to say the fact that he has a handicap system incorporated is just phenomenal. I mean, I'm in the bowling world. You know, we have 27,000 members, and that's what we use, the handicap system, to help equalize the players so they can all compete for the same prize monies and things like that. So
it's a game changer. The handicap system was a game changer.
Yeah, so
I can't stress enough what it did.
That's phenomenal in and of itself. It allows everyone with different skill sets to be able to compete and have fun doing it at the same time and not feel intimidated.
Yep.
You're gonna have the sandbaggers you got to watch out for, which I think you said you have.
No, we have built-in breakout.
Yeah, so you got that under control. So with that being said, I really do think that they should just get some things just to get started low end and get them out there with the. I would still put the controller in the number 3 spot.
I know.
Yeah, I definitely have to get a couple cars, some decent cars, not overwhelm themselves with that, but just a couple of cars so they can. And that's what people like. They like the cars. They're gonna go do that anyway. You can't hold them back from that. And that's pretty much it. Yeah.
If you have one thing I've done at the commercial track is, again, if you have the time, everybody has different amounts of time. This is a commercial track, so we make time for it. But on each Saturday, I'll have little seminars focused on one or two elements. So this week it'll be how to put in a guide flag, how to adjust braid. Next week it'll be gear ratios. So again, yes, let's not talk about the 210 things you can do to any car and describe them in 3.5 minutes, because guys they're just going to turn into Homer Simpson and their heads are just going to spin around. So, the basic thing for you, I would still say controller as one of the basic elements. And then what you really need to do from there is we're running a box stock class, and you need to devote some time to tell the guys, here are the 3 or 4 basic things you need to do to a box stock car to improve its performance, and,
Sure.
and just go from there.
Sure. Sure.
You know, I mean, I've been doing this for 55 years, and every day I learn a new thing. So that's a lot of days, and that's a lot of time to try and tell guys, no, don't do this, do this, do this, do this. You got to keep it competitive. You got to keep it fun. Those are the only 2 rules. And if the guys, your handicap system, we've got a bunch of guys, and because of the handicap system, it allows guys that have between all of us here, they have no right in winning any race whatsoever. Given a handicap system, they all believe they have a chance to win, and they sort of get close times at
True.
times.
That's true.
And that brings them on to the next race.
Yeah, you can have all the handicap systems you want. The good drivers will still usually win.
Well, it's, you know, and I mean, box stock is, you know, I mean, I find box stock cars the hardest to build, and they invariably take me more time than anything else because there's a billion little things I have to correct and fix.
It's true. Just
Well,
buy
yeah, it's the old saying, it's easier to build than to renovate, right?
Well,
but sometimes it is.
So I rephrased the question and said I'd give Phil the opportunity to re-answer that question. Phil, did you want to readdress that rephrased question?
Yeah, when you rephrase it that way, I say, you know, I didn't make our club up and I didn't set any of the rules, but I like our club rules, which are essentially like Chris was saying, box stock car, you know, 2 or 3 little things that you do, you know, you do some tires, you know, you can maybe take it apart, reset everything in it, you know, snap it back in place, glue, you know, we don't glue and true and all that stuff. So put your club allowed tire on there and get them out there. And if you got a handicap system, yeah, that's going to help them a whole lot. But I think just a box stock, don't overwhelm them with knowledge. Don't try to get them to do too much at home to their track. Just let them come out and race and encourage them to keep coming back. And, you know, when they're racing, you know, ask them, you know, if I could not tell you how to build the fastest car, what other question would you ask me? Because everyone wants to know what's the fastest car, what to do. But, you know, the fastest car is going to be the one you drive well. So I just tell them, get your favorite car, get as a box stocker, pretty much with our rules, you know, our Group C slotted, our stock cars with tires, and they do allow the guys to put a slower motor in it if they want to smooth it out a little bit, but that's about the whole of it. And, you know, I think people can come out and have a good time, and they do. And in our club, you know, the numbers haven't gone up, but where guys have dropped off, newbies have come in and stayed. And I think that says a lot, because a lot of guys that are dropping off, you know, they're either aging out or they move, you know, their health is starting to go, stuff like that. And so.
Sorry, I muted you a little early. We're running down our last couple of minutes, but I wanted to give the other guys an opportunity. If you didn't hear anybody mention something already on this topic, did you want to toss it in for this last couple of minutes here for Steve?
Wood tracks, there'd be a completely different way of setting everything up.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And it's
a lot harder on a wood track than what it is, because you got no magnets, and then from there onwards it's just a box standard car on a wood track.
Yeah, you know, a lot of this stuff is going to depend on what kind of club it is.
Yeah.
You know, is it a home track, plastic track club,
My
web track club, or, you know?
And there's no such thing as a box stock car. They do not exist. I defy anybody to tell me that they run a box stock car. You're all liars. You're not.
I do.
Well, maybe you do, but it's painted blue and yellow, so it's not box stock.
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, on that note, we're going to end the recording, and I'm sure we'll keep chatting on this topic and many others. If you are watching this on the recording, please feel free to come to a live chat. Just search Worldwide Slot Car Chat on Zoom, and you'll find a link to the next show, and we'll see you there. Bye.
Bye.